In the previous video, I showed you the most important levels to have on your chart. Now I'm going to show you how to get a very decent daily bias that you can use for your intraday trades. It's incredibly simple, and if you have a bunch of instruments that you follow and you look for the best daily biases to then time your trades intraday, it's going to boost your results on a daily, weekly, monthly basis immensely. So there are two bars that I personally look for. Well, usually it's only one bar, but sometimes it's a 2-bar combo that I want to see on a daily chart for me to look for a trade intraday on that pair on the next day. And that is a very simple breakout bar. I want to see the previous day's high or low to be broken by this candle, for example, and for it to close outside of the previous day's range. Ideally, without a big wick to the upside or downside. These are fantastic momentum candles which you can use for continuation trades the next day. So here on this daily chart, for example, when I see a bar like this, so I have the EMA 20, that's the pink line, I have the EMA 50, that's the purple line. Doesn't really matter, whatever you use in your strategy. But if you are a day trader and you're looking for an instrument to trade and you are wondering which one is very likely going to give me the best opportunity today, with the highest chance of a range expansion day, a wide range expansion day, with the highest chance of a trend continuation, then these candles are exactly what you want to be looking for. These wide range breakout candles closing above yesterday's high, in this case, and the next day you look for an entry, either when we break the high of this day or when we pull back into the range and we look for confirmation confluence factors somewhere here in the range where we can go long at the low of day to look for this continuation move. That is the only thing I do to get a daily bias, and I can catch big R winners on a regular basis. If you try to trade, for example, on a day like this, because the day before was like a small pin bar, it closed inside of the previous day's range, it's really hard to get a daily bias on this, almost impossible. So why don't make your life easier? Wait for this to break out. Ideally also, for example, this was a decent resistance level. We break above that, even better. The next day, you can look for a breakout of this day's high, or you can wait for a pullback in that level and then for a continuation of that trend, of that breakout. It is really the easiest way that I have found after 10 years to trade intraday with a very good daily bias. Now, ideally, these breakout candles, they happen in not extended market contexts. So for example, down here we are pulling back into the daily 20. Then we have the breakout candle. Next day, maybe there was an entry down here somewhere. Again, we close above previous day's high. We can look for a trade again. We can look for a trade again, and then now we are getting stretched, right? And then you can see price rolling over slowly. Now in that case, of course, now we have a break down candle because we close below the low of the previous day. So in this case here, we could look for a short continuation if you want to, but here we have last month's high. So we could also look for a long down here at this level. And if we look at the Nikkei trade that I showed you in the previous video, which I took, we had exactly that breakout candle here. We can also draw a trend line. We broke out We broke above a couple of support, resistance levels, trend lines, etc. Then we go to the lower time frames to see where we could potentially enter. Now in this case here, we were having a break and retest of this level. There was also a trend line here. And then there was also the moving average here on the 1 hour chart, for example, the 50 EMA. And down here we can look for a long. But the whole thesis, before I even go down to the lower time frame, comes from the daily chart for me, where I look at a momentum breakout bar on the daily chart. Then the next day I look for either a breakout continuation or a pullback continuation of this move to the upside. And you see, this wasn't a big daily candle here yesterday, but the way that I got in, which was all the way down here somewhere here, this went all the way up to 2.5 R, and before the weekend we are sitting at 1.3. The profit potential of this is unlimited. Well, not unlimited, but it's very high. Why? Because we are trading with the trend, we are trading with the bullish breakout on the daily chart. And that is exactly where the big money is, where you can make those big R's and pass your trading challenge, your prop firm challenge or whatever in 1 or 2 trades. So if you are having trouble finding a daily bias for your day trades, then I highly recommend simply going for these breakout bars. And then there's one more bar which I also like to trade, which is a rejection bar in a trend mostly. So here you can see a breakout, a retest of this level. And we do have the rejection here of a moving average and the key level. And then the next day, if I see that, especially going with the trend on a daily chart, it doesn't happen often, but if it does happen, the next day I'm going to look for a long here on this market. And you can see this was a massive expansion day on the GBP US dollar. So this is the other case that I look for. Here, for example, this was a beautiful engulfing breakout bar on the daily chart. If on the next day here, the 29th of October, you look for a short intraday with your intraday strategy, whatever that may be, you can hold that trade with conviction. The chances that price is going to go in your favor is way higher. And if you have a decent intraday timing technique, then looking for only these days with a bunch of instruments and then taking the intraday trades is really going to push you from mediocre, break even, losing to profitable trader very quickly. So again, I encourage you to look for these bars on the daily chart. Whenever you see that, see how price reacts the next day. What is price doing? And how can I get into a decent trade here to make use of that daily breakout momentum? And then use the levels from the previous video to time those intraday trades. And now slowly the magic is starting to happen. And then whatever entry model you use, whether that be your ICT model or your turtle soup or your whatever model, whatever you're trying to achieve here, you're going to have such a better win rate and a higher risk reward if you simply follow this methodology.